Oh dear God, it's already award season again. I'm just kidding. I love the Oscars. Most of the time. Like 50-50. Maybe that's too high. 2024 has been a weird year for movies. This is the first year since the pandemic where it felt like if you wanted to find the really good stuff, you had to go digging for it. I had barely seen anything that's been nominated this year. With the last 4 years, I had already seen a decent chunk of them, but that was not the case this year. And while part of that's my fault, part of it really isn't. Thankfully for me, there are like 10 movies that swept through most of the categories, so my job is substantially easier than last year. Speaking of which, I have a confession. While I do love this time of year, I've also been kinda dreading it. Last year I reviewed 37 movies and watched almost 50. I wrote a 35-page script, recorded it, edited it, and posted it all in a little under 2 months. It was just too much. For the few days before Oscar night, I was editing all day into the next morning, going to bed at like 6 or 7, waking up at 9, and then continuing to edit. All that to get it out 3 days late. So I'm not gonna do that this year. I mean, I'm still gonna watch and talk about all the movies except the documentaries, but the format's a little different this time around. This time, instead of full-length reviews, I'm just gonna go through all the categories and give my predictions of who I think the Academy will pick for each category, and then as a little bonus, if I were the one deciding every winner, who in my opinion should walk home with the award. I'll start with the short film categories, then move to the production and music stuff, then finish with acting, editing, director, and the best pictures. I am happy to say that the picks for this year were mostly pretty good. On that note, before we start, I feel like I should get something out of the way first. So I know I said I wasn't gonna do individual reviews, but I have to talk about this movie before we start because I have too much to say about this. Emilia Perez blew my fucking mind. I have never seen a movie like this be acknowledged by the Academy. I had heard about the buzz around this movie, but I always assumed that with movies like this, a lot of the criticism is hyperbole. It was not. I went into this with the complete intention of liking it, but man, I had a real hard time sitting through this whole thing. It's incredible how on a technical, emotional, and narrative aspect this movie is utterly incompetent. Let's start with the story. Defenders of Emilia Perez have called the story complex, and I think they mean to say convoluted. This is the first time that I have completely understood everything that was happening in a movie and been completely confused at the same time. It's not that I couldn't follow what was happening, I just could not fathom why it was happening. For those that have not yet experienced this movie, here's the plot. Zoe Saldana's character, I know she has a name, but for the life of me I can't think of a single character's name from the movie, is a Mexican lawyer who, I think, wins a case at the beginning of the story. She is then kidnapped by a cartel boss who tells her she needs to find doctors for him to do a sex change operation. You might be asking, why does he kidnap a random lawyer to do this and not, oh, I don't know, a doctor, maybe? Well, the reason we are given is that he likes her tenacity. So she then goes around singing some terrible songs and talks to some doctors while intermittently receiving death threats from the cartel leader. After some convincing, she is able to get a doctor to agree to this. So now Emilia Perez goes through with the operation, fakes her death, leaves her wife and 2 sons behind, and allows them to believe their father and husband has died. After 4 years, Emilia Perez for some reason finds the lawyer again in America and says, you know, I'm thinking I want my family back. So the lawyer flies to Sweden to pick them up and moves them back to Mexico against their will so they can go live with Emilia, who is now pretending to be their long-lost aunt. This then leads to some pretty weird encounters with the family, particularly one gross musical number where the oldest kid sings about how Emilia smells and feels like his dad. This is especially gross because for the entirety of the movie, the kids never learn the truth about their dad. Then, out of nowhere, Emilia decides that she feels bad about the probably hundreds of people and families she's destroyed, and decides to open up an organization that helps find the bodies of the missing people that she killed and return them to their families. While this is happening, Selena Gomez is going off sleeping around, and she then falls in love with a different cartel boss that she had supposedly been cheating on Emilia with for like a few years. She tells Emilia this, and she doesn't care, by the way. Anyway, Selena Gomez gets engaged to the other cartel guy, and she goes to tell Emilia about this and says that she's going to be moving out with her kids. Emilia says that she can't leave with her kids, so she chokeslams her and causes Selena to leave with her kids, which makes Emilia freeze all of the money that she left her behind before faking her death. This then leads to Selena kidnapping Emilia with the other cartel boss and holding her for ransom. Then Zoe Saldana somehow organizes a small militia to then have a shootout with the cartel boss to save Emilia. Emilia confesses to Selena that she is her husband, and then she gets thrown in the trunk of a car and the car falls off a cliff and explodes. Then I think like all of Mexico worships her like a saint. The end. Congratulations, I just saved you guys 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm sure some of you picked up from my synopsis that the plot has no through line and is borderline nonsensical. Everything up until the 4-year time skip is what I would consider the first act, and it's one of the worst first acts to anything I've ever seen. They present these different tasks like finding a doctor or her getting kidnapped or convincing a doctor to do it, all like they're hard to do, and then they get immediately solved. Everything in this movie involves someone wanting to do something and saying that it'll be hard, and then it immediately happens. There are no goals in this that don't get immediately solved aside from Amelia getting kidnapped. Characters' opinions of each other change with the wind. Amelia and Zoe Saldana's character go from threatening to kill each other to being best fucking friends within the span of a few minutes. I seriously cannot figure out Zoe Saldana's character in this. She acts, however, is best for the story at any given moment. There is no chemistry between any of the actors, the camera work is sloppy and random. It seems like they threw a dart at a list of camera angles and shots, and whatever they landed on would be next. The dialogue is absurdly bad. The acting is bare bones at best. The effects are fucking terrible. There are parts where you can seriously see the green screen behind certain characters. And the songs, oh my god, the songs. If any of you have heard of this movie, then you've probably seen the clip of the Sex Change Operation song. And yes, it's that bad all the way through. But I want you to hear my words when I say, that is one of the better songs in the movie.
Skin and bones. But I will never fix the soul.
This is an embarrassment on the Academy's part, and with a year of many flops, it's just the cherry on top to tell the general movie-going public that nothing good is coming out. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything that deserves less praise than this hollow, fake representational experience. So for the remainder of this video, I will be going off the assumption that the Best Picture category has 9 nominations, and Best Director, Actress, Supporting Actress, Adapted Screenplay, International Feature, Cinematography, Editing, Score, Sound, and Makeup all have 4 nominations, and Best Song only has 3.
Well, I mean, don't say one f***ing word, okay?
Okay, Lewis.
2 out of 10. In my honest opinion, I think Amelia Perez will probably win Best Song for El Mal, along with Zoe Saldana will win Best Supporting Actress, and I could see the Academy picking it for Best Cinematography, Score, and International Film, but we're gonna ignore all of that and talk about things that actually earned recognition. I will not be saying the name of this movie for the rest of the video. Moving on. This might be a bad tone to set, but I need to talk about this. I did not watch all of these shorts. I didn't even watch most of them. I saw one. I watched Yuck. I, for the life of me, could not figure out a way to see the other ones, which was very upsetting. I would have loved to watch Beautiful Men. That looked good. Same for Magic Candies. I watched all the trailers, if that makes you guys feel better. Whatever. Yuck is my pick. I liked it. I thought it was alright. Make it easier to watch these shorts. I had the same problem last year. This category I ran into the same problem, though I was able to find all of them except one. The nominees for this category are Alien, Anuha, I'm Not a Robot, The Last Ranger, and The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. The one I was not able to watch was The Last Ranger, and it looks pretty good. My favorite of the bunch was The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. It had the most engaging story and performances. All of them were pretty good other than I'm Not a Robot. So I could see the Academy picking any of them, but I'd bet on them picking Alien. Now I get to talk about the movies that other people actually know about. This was one of the harder categories to pin down for me on what I think the Academy will choose. The nominees are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. I honestly think it's in character for the Academy to pick like 4 of these. I think both Wicked and Conclave have the best costume design for the story they're in, and the presentation is kind of built around them, so it makes a lot of sense for these to be the frontrunners. However, I do think that Gladiator 2's costuming is a lot more ambitious. With that being said, I think it's most likely that the Academy will pick Conclave, but I think that's more due to what the camera and lighting does for the costumes, and not the other way around like in Wicked. My personal pick for costumes is a toss-up between Wicked and Nosferatu. While I think Wicked's costuming is really creative and stands out a lot, which might mean it's better on paper, Nosferatu's costumes do more to pull me in and be immersed in the period and the atmosphere of the story. Also, I don't know how A Complete Unknown beat out Dune 2's costumes, but I have a feeling this isn't going to be the only time Dune snubs are going to come up in this video. Guys, I wish I could say that this category is a toss-up and that it's a real close race, but it's not. Of the nominees, A Different Man, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked, the leader is far and away The Substance. Wicked looks good, A Different Man is awesome, especially with how they transform Sebastian Stan, and Nosferatu is really fun and makes the horror and suspense that much better, but the substance is a whole other level. I mean, the makeup in that is a masterclass in body horror. It adds so much to the film that it would seriously be impossible for this film to exist if the makeup weren't this good. For this one, both my prediction and my personal pick are the same, though I could see some alternate dimension where the Academy has an aneurysm and picks Wicked. Best Production Design has a lot of strong contenders, and yet I don't think it's very close. The nominees are The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune, Nosferatu, and Wicked. The two in this that have a chance are Dune and Wicked, and it's just going to be Wicked. I think it's the world Wicked made with them building all the sets that makes it impossible for the Academy to ignore. While I'm a huge fan of practically making sets, I really don't understand how it isn't going to be Dune. Like, they're just gonna forget about the black and white world. It's sad how much a movie can lose out in the award circuit by simply coming out 6 months too early. I would have loved to see the alternate reality where Dune 2 wasn't delayed and it and Oppenheimer swept every award in history. The nominees for Best Visual Effects are Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune, Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. Let's go down the list. Planet of the Apes is a good pick, but it's not winning. They put all those movies in this category. You all know I love Romulus, but it's not winning. Even disregarding the hiccups in the effects at times, the controversy around them resurrecting the android from the first one is enough to keep them out of the conversation. Literally, no one saw Better Man, so it's not winning. And since I have no other excuse to talk about this, Better Man went so unnecessarily hard. The movie looks sick as hell, especially all the musical numbers. Music was great, love the story, and that one sequence at the end with the fight scene was one of my favorite scenes all year. It was incredible. Anyway, onto the two contenders. I could see a world in which Wicked wins, but I think they have to give it to Dune. That worm scene alone is enough for them to win. That movie is a treat for the eyes, unless you watched it on streaming where you get like 30% of the screen, but I'll get too angry talking about that. Both prediction and personal pick are Dune, but like that 1% chance that Better Man wins would get me excited. Nominees for Best Cinematography are The Brutalist, Dune, Maria, and Nosferatu. Despite how much the camera adds to the atmosphere as well as the use of shadow, I think Nosferatu is just too weird for the Academy to pick it. Maria isn't getting it despite how great the visuals are and how Angelina Jolie absolutely deserved an Oscar nomination. It's going to be either Dune or Brutalist, and I'd hedge my bets on Dune. Any other year I think it'd be a pretty easy case for Brutalist, but I think the Academy is going to go with the scope and color of Dune. My personal pick for this category would be Dune as well. All of the best sound picks this year were pretty good. A Complete Unknown, Dune 2, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. If it were up to me, I would have had the substance in this category too, in that weird empty 5th slot. But I'm happy with the picks. For this category, I think it's going to be either Wicked or Dune. Dune would be the right choice, but I have a feeling that the Academy is going to show Wicked some love, which wouldn't be the worst thing. The sound in Wicked has a lot of creative choices with the magic, and it helps elevate the emotional moments, especially with Defying Gravity. That scene is so good, it made me want the Academy to add an adapted score category just for that to win. And a lot of that comes from how good the sound is. I think that the Academy will end up going with Dune, but I'm gonna be honest, I would be so fucking hyped if they went with The Wild Robot, so that's my own pick because god, that movie sounds so good. The nominees for the best score are The Brutalist, Conclave, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. All of these are pretty good picks. Conclave is probably the weakest though. I thought the original score from Wicked was great too, but The Wild Robot and The Brutalist are worlds ahead. If I'm being perfectly honest, The Brutalist has the better score. That shit was so fucking good, but goddamn, I wish The Wild Robot had a chance to win. Even though I don't actually think it's the best one, my personal pick is going to Wild Robot, but yeah, The Brutalist has this one. This best song category is really lacking. Other than the two gross ones, there are only 2 real nominations, because 688 is not winning. While not nearly as bad, it is this year's equivalent to the Flamin' Hot Cheetos song from last year. Everyone knows that one is just there to fill a slot. Aside from the winner actually most likely being El Mal, I could see Elton John winning because it's Elton John, but my personal pick would be from Sing Sing. Sing Sing deserves so much more love this year. And if you're talking about snubs this year, we have got to talk about the biggest snub in Academy history.
I always wanted a brother. I always wanted a brother.
The nominees for Adapted Screenplay this year are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. I think that these picks are just okay. While I think that the best part of A Complete Unknown is its script, I don't think it deserved the nomination. Same goes for Conclave. My picks for this category would have been Dune, Wild Robot, I'd keep Sing Sing and Nickel Boys, and then either Nosferatu or Wicked, depending on how I'm feeling. For the actual nominees, I think the Academy is going to go with Nickel Boys, and for good reason. The characters are so real and personal, and the way the story flows and presents itself is really fascinating and heartbreaking. I think for my pick, I'd go with Sing Sing. While Nickel Boys is the better movie of the two, I was far more moved by the writing in Sing Sing. It takes a lot for media to make me cry, but that beloved line almost got me. My opinion on this could change tomorrow, so I'll be happy if either of those two win. The nominees for Original Screenplay are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5th, and The Substance. It's not going to be September 5th, which I'm pretty happy about considering that was one of the most boring movies I had to watch for this video. I don't think the Academy is going to go for The Substance because it's a genre film, and even though it's my favorite of the 5, I don't think it should be the winner for Screenplay. A Real Pain had some absolutely beautiful dialogue and touching moments in the second half, along with being really funny, but unfortunately I don't think it'll win either. At the end of the day, it's coming down to Anora and The Brutalist. I have a feeling that Anora is going to take this one. The writing is really tight and funny front to back, but The Brutalist is still my favorite. I'm more than happy with Anora getting the praise it deserves, so I've got no problem with either. This was one of the categories that I was the most unsure about, but after some thought, I'm positive about the two it'll come down to. The nominees for Best Editing are Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, and Wicked. I think that both Wicked and Conclave are strong contenders, but I don't think they're close behind Anora and The Brutalist. I think The Brutalist has such strong editing that it makes a 3.5-hour movie into what feels like a packed 2.5. It's absurd how good the pacing is, and I think it's definitely possible that it could win, but that's not my prediction or pick. Anora has one of the more interesting editing styles I've seen this year. While the way it's cut makes it a lot funnier than it would be otherwise, that's not what I'm talking about. The way the film is edited is backwards to a normal movie. Let me explain. Like, as Anora goes on, it gets slower and slower, and it makes the film exponentially better. With the film being a sad twist on a rags to riches found beauty story, having a movie get more and more normal as it goes on adds so much to the movie that I think that's enough for it to win. It's also my personal pick, even though I like The Brutalist the most out of these. Also, how the fuck did The Substance not get a nomination? I feel like they didn't watch the same movie I did. Supporting actor nominations are Yuri Borisov, there's no way I got that right, from Anora, Kieran Culkin from A Real Pain, Edward Norton from A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce from The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong from The Apprentice. I always look at these categories as who is the closest to the main character or who adds the most to their film. From that we can knock off both Guy Pearce and Yuri Borisov. I am still butchering that. While I can really appreciate Yura's subtle performance, and I've been in love with Guy Pearce since Memento, I just don't think they have a chance. Next on the chopping block is Jeremy Strong. Strong's performance is the philosophical crux of The Apprentice, but it's just too weird for the Academy. Between the other two, I'm divided, but not for the reasons you would think. On paper, it should be Kieran Culkin. He gives one of the most moving and strangely hypnotic performances of the year, but there's a problem. This is the 4th time that Edward Norton has been nominated, and if Kieran wins, it'll be the 4th time he goes home empty-handed. My personal pick is unquestionably Kieran Culkin, and I think it would be the Academy's pick too, but I don't think they're gonna let Norton go home without an award again. Supporting actress nominations are Monica Barbaro for Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the last section. Isabella Rossellini is the first to go. She doesn't do a bad job, I just don't understand what she's doing here. She's in the movie for like 10 minutes that I can remember. Next is Monica Barbaro. She's great in A Complete Unknown, but out of the next one, she doesn't have the same impact. Ariana Grande is really great in Wicked. As someone who has seen the original play, she feels very authentic, and honestly is the entire reason the pacing in Wicked is so great. However, I think she is still overshadowed by Felicity Jones. Felicity Jones absolutely blew me away. From the first few scenes that she's in, the entire tone of the film changed. She feels like she's tapped into something that none of the other characters are seeing. I think she is without a doubt the most important character to her film out of all the nominees. But I'm not an idiot. I know Zoe Saldana is going to win. Ignoring the fact that this was a Godfather situation where the clear main character got put down as a supporting role, and while I absolutely cannot stand the movie, Zoe Saldana is the only reason that movie isn't a 1. She is the only glimmer of value that comes from that movie, and that might as well be the second coming of Christ to the Oscars. The nominees for Best Actor are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Right off the bat, we can eliminate Sebastian. I loved how accurate he got the cadence and the facial movements down for Trump, but I know the Academy isn't going to give it to him. Frankly, I'm just happy to see him get some love. Timothée Chalamet also isn't going to win. He did a great job in Complete Unknown and did some great singing, but compared to the 3 main frontrunners, it's just a less impressive performance. I'm glad he won SAG. I think he's only been getting better and better. As much as it pains me to say, Colman Domingo won't be winning for Sing Sing. The love for that movie just isn't there. At the end of the day, it's coming down to Ralph Fiennes and Adrien Brody. Ralph's this high because he did a great job, and he's had a long and illustrious career, which unfortunately really plays into how the Academy feels about the contenders. He adds the humanity that story desperately needed for Conclave to be as interesting and grounded as it is. Despite that, I would bet money on them picking Adrien Brody. Not only does Adrien have one of the best resumes of any actor alive, his performance makes The Brutalist what it is. I don't like the use of AI for his performance, but I'm able to overlook it because of how great Adrien Brody was in this movie. His character is so complex in this that by the end, I feel like I learned so much about him and who he is, and yet I feel like I don't know him at all. He's like an enigma, and it goes with the writing and filming of the movie. Truly one of the best of his career, and that's saying a lot. I think the Academy is going to go with Adrien, but my own pick has to go with Colman Domingo. I think Colman is like a top 8 actor working today, and this might just be my favorite performance I've seen by him. Sing Sing deserves so much better than that sorry excuse for marketing. Maybe I'll make a video about that soon. Nominees for Best Actress are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Mickey Madsen for Anora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. The 2 least likely out of the 4 are Cynthia Erivo and Fernanda Torres. Fernanda gave a really beautiful motherly performance akin to Daniel Deadweiler from Till. If you haven't seen Till, please go watch it. And Cynthia Erivo gives a stellar adaptation of Elphaba, especially considering her songs were recorded on set, which is nuts. But neither of them are doing what Mikey Madsen and Demi Moore are. I really can't decide which performance I like more. Mikey Madsen is really great and causes the movie to be both funny and heartbreaking in repetition throughout Anora. She's got so much heart and soul that turns what should be an out there story into something really personal and tragic. I loved her performance, but I'm completely positive Demi Moore is going to take this one. Her performance in The Substance is career defining. If anyone was confused about the energy The Substance is going for, just think about how Demi Moore acts throughout the movie and you'll perfectly get it. It's hard to think of performances more perfectly suited to the movie they're in. My prediction is without a doubt Demi Moore, and even though it's really, really close, I think I'm gonna have to agree. Best Director is really strong this year. The nominees are Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, James Mangold for Complete Unknown, and Coralie Fargiet for The Substance. I really hope that's right. I could see them giving it to James Mangold because of his resume, but I think he's the least likely out of the bunch. I think the most likely two are Sean Baker and Brady Corbet. Sean Baker is one of the best directors working today, and the fact that he was able to make a movie about a sex worker this enjoyable and digestible for a mass audience is an impressive feat. At the same time, what Corbet accomplishes with the way the characters bounce off each other so fluidly for 3.5 hours goes a long way to how fast-paced the movie is. However, Coralie Fargiet does the best job as a director this year, and it's not close. It's such a specific and strong vision that it makes what could have been a generic exploitative body horror flick into one of the best genre movies of the 2020s. Oscar prediction goes to Sean Baker, but my personal pick is unquestionably Coralie. Best International Feature has been the easiest category to predict every year since Parasite forced the Academy to start putting these in other categories. The nominees are I'm Still Here, The Girl with the Needle, Amelia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Flow. I know I said I wouldn't say that name again, but I kinda need to for this category. Obviously the debate is between I'm Still Here and the other one, because they are the only ones also nominated for Best Picture. Yes, I know Flow is nominated for Best Animated Film, but frankly, being both an animated movie as well as a foreign film is like being both blind and deaf in the eyes of the Academy. I'll talk more about Flow in the next section. Of the two, unfortunately, I think it's going to go to Amelia Perez. I'm Still Here is a beautiful and tragic family drama, and it's leaps and bounds above the other one, but like, it has 13 nominations. I can't exactly ignore that. For the rest of the category, I'll say Flow is my personal favorite, and The Girl with the Needle is one of the most fucked up movies I've seen in a while. The Academy did a good job this year on the animation nominees. Nominees are Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. I would have loved to see Transformers 1 get nominated instead of Inside Out, but that would have been insane. Inside Out 2 did a bit better than Transformers did at the box office. I liked all the movies they chose though. Inside Out 2 was a nice classic Pixar story, though it's not as good as the first one. I was really invested in Riley's story and less so in the story of the emotions. A lot of people said that it was a tearjerker, and I didn't get that. It was just kind of a sweet story in the same vein as the first one. It was just a solid kids movie with some good humor, great voice acting performances, and a nice ending. Vengeance Most Foul was the first Wallace and Gromit movie I've seen, and I thought it was great. It was the exact type of feel-good story that I assumed they were. This felt like a great introduction to the franchise, and I can't wait to watch the rest of them. Memoir of a Snail is a great example of two things: how a mature and adult story can be told through animation, as well as how great stop motion is. It's weird and sad and funny and gross and weird, and it's fascinating to watch. I'm not in love with everything about the story. I think it's a bit too long and certain parts seem to drag out, but I thought the ending was great. Flow is fucking beautiful. It's got a bit of a weird animation style sometimes, but when it wants to, especially when there's water involved, this movie is really beautiful and never manages to get boring for a moment despite there not being a word spoken. It's a beautiful, wordless story of friendship and found family. Speaking of family, The Wild Robot is my favorite animated movie of 2024. Period. Dude, I knew about this movie since March of last year, and after seeing the poster once, I knew this was going to be a banger. This is the second best looking 3D animated movie I've seen. It feels like the colors are melting off the screen onto my eyes. I will not elaborate because that is happening to all of you right now from watching these clips. The characters are fantastic, the story is so sad, the voice acting, please put Pedro Pascal in every animated movie. I could go on and on about this movie. It is far and away my personal pick for animation, and you know what? I think the Academy agrees with me on this. I mean, it's that or Flow. They're the only two with other nominations. Alright, we're finally here. Best Picture. For the last 2 years, there's been a far and away frontrunner for this category, but I'm really unsure about this year. I think most of the nominees have at least a decent chance. The nominees are Anora, Brutalist, Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. The ones that it definitely won't be are I'm Still Here and Complete Unknown. I'm Still Here didn't have the same buzz that these others had, and it's the nominee that's least likely to win any other award. I'm Still Here was a really tragic family drama, and the crux of the movie being about confronting the lies of history and commanding the truth even if there's no way to fix what happened is a really powerful statement on how important transparency is for those in power, and it works well intertwined with this small family drama. Next off the list is Complete Unknown. Everyone does a great job and the story is really engaging as biopics go, but that's just the problem. It's another music biopic. And while it is one of the better ones, I don't think it stands out the same way the other nominees do. Next is unfortunately The Substance. I absolutely love this insane show. The Substance is one of the most pissed off movies I've seen in a while. It sucks that I know this won't win. The Academy isn't ready for a genre film like this to win Best Picture. Maybe in a few years from now. Next to go is Nickel Boys. This movie is unlike any other. It's not a new premise, but the presentation is the movie. If you don't know, this entire movie is shot in the first person between two characters, and I mean everything. Showing a historical drama about the trauma that black people endured in the 60s entirely in the first person makes for a really intense and horrifying experience. This movie is not shy in making you feel the pain it wants you to feel, and it does it so earnestly that it makes me upset that this didn't make bigger ripples in the award season. The race gets tighter from here on out. I think the next most likely is probably Wicked. It's a really great story and feels faithful as an adaptation. All the songs are done justice, the set designs ooze with life and personality, and the performances feel emotional. Cynthia Erivo pulls everything together in a really satisfying and touching way. Any other year, I think she'd have Best Actress in the bag. Next on the chopping block is most likely Dune. It sucks what happened to Dune's chances purely because of how early it came out in the year. I think these nominations would be so different otherwise. Everyone knows how great Dune is. I don't need to tell you, you all saw it. Dune just lost its chance based on recency bias. The last three are the real toss-up this year. Out of the last three, I think Conclave is the least likely. I wouldn't exactly be surprised if it won, but I don't think it has the same impact as the others. It looks really beautiful, the performances are great, and I think it's a story the Academy would really grab onto, but that's the same way I feel about The Brutalist, and The Brutalist has more nominations. I'm having a really hard time deciding between the two. If my prediction is right about Sean Baker winning Best Director, then I think Anora will be the one to win. If I'm not, and any other movie wins Best Director, then my money is on The Brutalist. Both are some of the most gripping and tightly made stories of the year. I'd be happy with either, but as it stands, my bets are on Anora. My personal pick will probably change before you guys even see this video, but at the moment, I have to give it to Dune. There you have it. 32 movies, 21 categories, and many, many late nights. This is most likely the format I'll be doing for the years that follow, and hopefully I'll get quicker. I'll have the link to last year's ranking in the description. I like to think I've improved a lot since that came out, but maybe you're interested anyways. Thank you to anyone who stuck it out until the end. I can't wait to see how much I got completely wrong on Sunday. If anyone is curious, here is my ranking for the movies I watched. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go take a 36-hour nap.